So the last episode I said that we would release a bonus episode of me talking about theme parks for 9 minutes, but then I accidentally deleted the recording, so now that's not gonna happen. Hello and welcome to Labyrinth of the Bizarre, a podcast where we discuss, review, and analyze speculative fiction such as horror, apocalyptic, dark fantasy, and other subgenres. My name is Elia, my pronouns are they, them.
I'm Andrea, and I use she, her pronouns.
This episode is going to be about Junji Ito. Usually we spoil everything, but for this episode, since we're talking about a variety of his work, we'll only be giving minor spoilers for his short stories.
Junji Ito is a Japanese horror mangaka. He was introduced into the world of horror when he was a young boy because his sisters would read some horror story magazines, and so he would too, which I love because I too was introduced into the world of speculative fiction at a very young age because of my brother.
Aw, is it the brother who's gonna listen to this episode?
Yeah! Oh, sorry, that was up.
Oh, look how excited that is. A sibling love.
So that's nice. He submitted his first short story to Gekkan Halloween, which later became serialized as his popular series Tomie. Just as his first story, most of his work was produced on a weekly to monthly basis to come out in magazines, which is why some stories are repeated in his collections. A lot of his work has been adapted into various TV shows and films, including the anime movie coming out this year based on Uzumaki. Most of his stories fall along the lines of cosmic horror, which is basically the unknown or more like the fear of the unknown. It often makes use of the sublime, which is when something is both at the same time beautiful yet utterly terrifying in the way that you can't look away. And for most cosmic horror stories done right, the unknown remains unknown till the end. Some people know this genre as Lovecraftian, but fuck Lovecraft, he's racist. If you would like to know more, just Google it. It's cosmic horror, not Lovecraftian.
Yeah, fuck Lovecraft.
Fuck him.
Racist scumbag.
So there's a lot of trigger warnings for Junji Ito's stories, and there's a lot that we haven't listed because there's a lot. But for the ones that we're going to talk about, there's trypophobia, which is the fear of closely packed holes, suicide, body horror, gore, blood and gross fluids, cannibalism, murder, clowns, and rot.
Regarding problematic behaviors, I couldn't find anything on Junji Ito on anti-Semitism, racism, and homophobia. So if he does have a history of this and we missed it, please let us know and we will do a follow-up segment in the next episode. I do want to say that there was one story that was kind of transphobic. It's Magami Nanakuse from Fragments of Horror. It's kind of weird and I can understand what he was trying to do, but at the same time, one of the characters has a very stereotypical transphobic caricature, and so that comes off really transphobic to me. The premise of the story is really weird. It's like about people trying to copy each other, so like I kind of get what he was trying to do, but at the same time, you know, it's just don't do that, please. Okay, so Andrea, how were you introduced to Junji Ito?
I was only recently introduced to him last year because I was in desperate need for horror stories. I was looking at Recs on YouTube and a lot of people would recommend Junji Ito and specifically Uzumaki. And so Uzumaki was the first book I read of his, which I'm really happy about because it's his best.
Yeah, it is his best book. I can't believe you read that one first. You got lucky. For me, it was more or less 8 years ago on YouTube. A YouTuber I will not name because he is problematic. I used to be super into, and he was famous for having a deep voice. And so he would sometimes record himself reading horror stories. And Junji Ito was one of them. And I hadn't realized that it was from Junji Ito even after I found out who Junji Ito was, because I didn't know who wrote the stories. I just thought they were like random stories online that were like copy pasta, you know, from Reddit and stuff like that. So I didn't realize that I was already introduced to Junji Ito before, but like me actually actively reading his work only happened late 2020. So I'm still kind of new to him.
Question. It's copy pasta? I thought it was creepy pasta.
Copy pasta.
You said copy pasta.
Oh my god, I did say copy pasta. That's also a thing. God damn it. Copy pasta is all the spam shit.
No, I was like, that doesn't make sense.
It's that barking meme and stuff like
that.
Yeah. I got, I don't know, there's too much something pasta. So I meant creepy pasta, but yes, that's
okay.
Whatever, Reddit stuff. So I am very lucky that my roommate is a big Junji Ito fan because they have all of his books. We were thinking of having them as a guest on the episode, but there wasn't a lot of time. But I told them that if we ever do a Stardew Valley episode, they could be a guest for that. And I really want to do that. Yes. And that's just like a teaser for y'all because we might do that one day.
Yes.
My roommate just wanted me to tell y'all that they were the ones responsible for me being able to read Junji Ito and basically for being able to do this episode with Rea.
Thank you, Elia's roommate.
So, Rea and I are huge horror fans, and usually a lot of things don't make us feel grossed and disturbed, but Rea, what made you feel grossed out from Junji Ito's work?
Okay, as you were saying, like, I don't normally get grossed out, like, with anything, but Junji Ito's work has been the only thing that makes me literally shut down and, like, have physical reactions to what I'm reading and seeing. And what it was, most of his stories with gross fluids, they're the absolutely most disgusting thing ever, especially when it's connected with body horror. Ugh, disgusting. It literally makes me feel queasy.
Yeah, like mutilated bodies I usually don't have a problem with, but it's like anything that is like slimy, because like we experience like, you know, that slimy feeling when it's like humid or whatever, or like if you touch something that's sticky. So like I know the feeling, and the thought of it being in like a terrifying horrific experience, you know, I'm just like oh, that's so gross, it's so disgusting, I can't.
So bad. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I love it, but also I don't.
Yeah.
I don't like the feeling
the
of
sublime.
feeling grossed
The
out.
sublime.
This is what most people feel like.
Wow, wait. This is the perfect experience of the sublime. We are experiencing the sublime with those stories because we love them, but we can't physically stand them. It's disgusting.
Yeah, this is like...
That shit's beautiful to me. That shit's beautiful. Okay.
You know, I also get really grossed out with cannibalism, but like not in his work.
I don't usually get grossed out with cannibalism.
Yeah, it has to be very specific, like the way they portray it. Because I'm not always grossed out with cannibalism. I think cannibalism is cool. Kidding.
I get grossed out by bodily fluids in his work and old people. Old people in horror stories.
Oh, shut up.
Ugh,
what is
disgusting.
Up with you people
Get away
hating
from
old
me.
People? I don't understand.
No one...
You will become that one day.
I hate it. I'm dying young.
I don't get it. Yeah, Rea hates Meryl Streep, and I don't understand why. Just because she's old? Like, bro?
No, not just because she's old. Let me, like, give me one fucking second. Give me one fucking second. Give me one fucking second.
You said in response, tell me one good old actor. And I was like, are you fucking serious right now?
Tell me one.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
No.
What do you mean, no?
Okay, I'm going back to Meryl Streep. I have other reasons why I don't like her. Basically, she's a terrible... No, I shouldn't say terrible human. I don't know much about her, other than that she was in that one movie.
So you do hate her because she's old.
She's old, and she was in that... It bothers me. She was in a movie when she was like, I think like 50 years old, and she was playing a 20-year-old. She was supposed to look like a 20-year-old, and she was like 50, and it didn't make sense to me, and I hated it. It's the worst thing. Just hire young people if you want a younger person. Don't hire a 50-year-old to represent a 20-year-old. Like, what the fuck?
And why do you hate Sir Patrick Stewart?
Oh, I don't have strong feelings over him.
Okay, whatever.
I just don't like old people. Anywho, fuck Meryl Streep. Also, before another thing about her, she was in the movie, how do you call it in English? The House of Spirits by Isabel Allende, and she was supposed to be like this beautiful character, and like in the book she has like green hair, blah blah blah. And then Meryl Streep comes out, and I'm like, I guess she's beautiful to American audiences, but like to me, she wasn't, and I was really mad. Oh, we're going way too far into Meryl Streep. Let's go. Moving on.
Completely unrelated.
Why did you have to bring her up? Ugh.
Because you said you hate old people, and I don't
she's
understand.
The first old person you think of?
Because that's how the conversation started. You said that you didn't like Meryl Streep because she's old, and I said, why do you hate old people?
Moving on. I'm still laughing.
Oh yeah, God forbid we laugh or during our recordings, Rhea.
Shut up. Moving on. Was there anything about his stories that doesn't work for you?
Yes. Okay, so Tomie, she is a reoccurring character and she has her own collection. I think it's one of the biggest collections. And Rhea hasn't read Tomie, but she did read Painter, which is one of her stories, and it's part of the Shiver collection. So Tomie is this impossibly gorgeous woman who is very selfish and egoistic, and she's so pretty that her beauty evokes obsession in people, particularly men, to the point where they will kill for her or kill her. And she also has like these regenerative powers, so you can't get rid of her. She's always gonna be there. I personally find Tomie's stories to be really boring simply because it is so repetitive, but it is actually one of Ito's popular works. And I think, Rea, you mentioned in the beginning that it was one of his first, right?
Yeah, his first story that he published was a Tomie story.
And it's so weird because it's like so popular, and so I expected more when I like read stories about Tomie, but it just like didn't reach that expectation. But I do really like a lot of the art and the creative ways Junji Ito does Tomie's regenerative process, because like, you know, that book is so big, and in each story she's supposed to regenerate over and over again, so it's like, how can you make this interesting and new? And like, he does it every time. And so like, artistically it looks really awesome, and like, even though I don't like Tomie, I want to do a lot of fan art for her because I just think a lot of the stories look cool visually. But yeah, so as my first Tomie story, Painter was really intriguing to me. It has one of my favorite panels. So like, the artist has this portrait of Tomie, and it's supposed to capture her hidden appearance, which is two distinct faces meshed together, but also like trying to tear each other apart. I don't know if I'm describing that properly, but they're kind of like cells, right? Cells do that thing where they split or multiply. I don't know, cells, science.
Photosynthesis. No, wait, no, that's like, not it. I'm not even gonna say it. I forgot everything about science.
You know what? Yeah, I don't care about STEM science, so you know what I'm talking about. When cells
mitosis. Mitosis. That's what it's
Congratulations. So when cells do that thing that Rea says, supposedly, we don't really know. We're not gonna Google it to make sure. But when cells do that thing, there's like that part when they're kind of still connected, but they're like obviously about to split apart. That's kind of what her face looked like.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. See, I'm right. Anyway, so the artist murders Tomie, which is kind of a big spoiler, which we said we weren't going to do spoilers, but I need to explain that for the panel. So he murders Tomie, and her head is split in half. And like, for a brief moment, because this was my first time reading a Tomie story and I didn't really know much about her yet, I thought that, I was like, what if this monster version of her was just a hallucination that all the men who were obsessed with her were having, and that the painter split open her head to force her body to imitate the two-faced monster that he thought she was. But then she like regenerates afterwards. And I was like, okay, well, never mind. That theory is stupid.
I don't think it's stupid.
But I just thought, well, it would be a good story, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a really small panel, and you're probably gonna like read it and be like, which panel am I talking about? Because there's like multiple. But anyways, I just thought that was really interesting, and I want to draw it at some point, but who knows?
You should.
I like, the thing is, I don't really like Tomie. I don't know why I'm still drawing her.
I probably won't like Tomie either, but if you put that art you already made on a sweater, I will buy it. Because it's cool. Elia made art for Tomie. Check out their account. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's on my Instagram. So we'll be diving into 3 collections for this episode: Shiver, Gyo, and Uzumaki. And so first up is Shiver.
Ooh.
Shiver is a collection, and it's really nice because it has author's notes and sketches, which other collections don't have.
It's really fun to see what his inspiration was. Because sometimes it's just like, sir, how did you come up with this?
Some of his inspirations are just like so fucking random. I'm like, hello?
Like, what?
The first short story is, there's a short story called Shiver, which is also the name of the collection, but the short story is a story about this boy and his reclusive neighbors, a mother and a daughter. He sometimes catches glimpses of the daughter, and he notices that there are like countless tiny holes covering her arm. And he says in his author's notes that his inspiration was an illustrated reference book on insects, and they have holes on the sides of their abdomen for breathing. And so that's how he got his inspiration for this story.
This is a story that if you have trypophobia, you should not even open it. Like, do not read this story, okay? Do not.
Yeah, I don't have trypophobia, but sometimes holes are gross.
Well, a lot of people in my family have trypophobia.
Yeah.
It's really funny to see their reaction. And I had never understood their reaction until I read the other story in this collection, and now I understand.
The thing that made me understand trypophobia was actually the Magnus Archives podcast, which is so weird.
It still didn't get to me in the Magnus Archives. It didn't do it for me.
R.I.P. Jonathan Sims.
The old people episode on the Magnus Archives.
Oh my god, not this shit again.
That did it for me. I just don't like it. I don't like it. Okay.
You know what's really awkward? is when Pedro Pascal reaches 60, you're probably gonna start hating him.
Shut up.
Maybe that's something you should think about. And maybe retract your hatred for old people.
Why would you say that?
Because it's true.
Say that?
What is he, like, almost 50?
No, he's 45. Okay, you know what? I hate you. Moving on. 60 isn't that old. Shut up. My parents are 60.
I'm
not that old.
I'm pretty sure that Meryl Streep is close to 60.
Fuck Meryl Streep. Let me look for her age. Meryl.
Why are we still talking about this?
Strep. Age.
Strep.
Google. She's 71. And see? That's different. Oh, I saw a picture of her. Disgusting. That was really good. It wasn't my favorite in the collection, but oh my god, his artwork is so good.
Yeah.
So fucking good. There are a lot of panels in that story that I'm like, wow, if I printed this out and put it on my wall, my family would freak out every time they entered my room.
I wonder if we wrote down notes for the same panel. There's a panel in the story where someone's face is covered with holes and like the eyeball is out of place because the flesh that supports the eyeball has deteriorated, and so it's like falling down. Is it the same panel?
So good. Yes. Oh, that was so good. I noticed that he likes to do like a lot of panels where it's like focusing on the eyes, and I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. He does that a lot
Rea
in Uzumaki.
Loves eyes.
I love eyes. Eyes and teeth. Let's go. Anything with eyes and teeth, I love it.
I think for me it's teeth and tongues.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's always between those three for monster lovers out there. Shiver. I just think holes are very intriguing to look at, and just the thought of like my body being filled with holes is like, ooh, that's gross.
But like it's not just holes, like they would breathe out through those holes like the insects, and that's really interesting to me. I think that was more interesting to me than other stories that use trypophobia. Usually it's just like holes in your body, but like no, these have a purpose. This is like an evolutionary weird thing. They're breathing out through that. I love it.
I just randomly recalled this memory of mine, but it was while I was listening to the Magnus Archives. I was also eating meat. I don't remember what I was eating, but I was staring at it, and then I noticed all these holes, and I was like, oh my god. and it was as I was listening to the Magnus Archives, and I was like,
that's so
Jonathan Sims, what have you done?
Oh god.
Greased oil is the next story from Shiver, and I think it's both of our, like, one of our favorites probably from Junji Ito.
Yes. 100%. It's so good. And there's a reason why they picked this one to be the last one of the collection, because it's the most impactful one and the most that gives you a visceral reaction.
Oh, so let me explain Greased Oil before we continue on. So Greased Oil is a story about this family who owns a yakiniku barbecue restaurant on the ground floor of their house, and the oily smoke from the cooking would rise up into their living area, their apartment, on the first floor. And because of poor ventilation, their house and everything in it would, like, keep that oil. And so, like, the walls were oily, the blankets were oily, everything was just really oily, and it's disgusting. His inspiration was when he was younger and stayed at a temple, he had to sleep in an oil-soaked futon. An oil-soaked futon. That sounds disgusting. And he said it was extra sticky because it was summertime and humid, and the thought of that is so disgusting, and ugh.
Stop. My notes while I was reading this story is just, I wrote disgusting 5 times.
It's so funny though, because like when I was flipping through to prep for this episode, I was literally gagging. Like, I was only flipping through it and I was gagging, and I couldn't. I was also drinking water at the same time.
Oh no.
And I couldn't drink water without being grossed out, because it was like the feeling of water trickling down my throat made me think of oil, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Okay, wait, let me describe you my experience of reading this story. So when it gets to that really gross scene that I won't describe, I had to start covering panels while I read the words because I couldn't physically read unless it was covered, because it was so disgusting to look at it for longer than I had to. One extra second and I would have probably like been like dizzy. It was really, my body reacted to it in a really negative way that I had to go take a shower after it because I couldn't stand the feeling of anything on my body.
Yeah, like, I hate oily stuff. I just, like, hate, slimy, oily, sticky shit. It's disgusting. Like, I hate when my hair is oily. I hate when my skin is oily. I hate pimples. I hate when, when people's keyboards, like on their laptops, get super oily because they don't clean it. Oh, it's just like, just looking at it makes me like want to vomit. Ugh.
This story does not, it made me, oh my gosh, I wanted to wash my face like 50 times. I was like, no, you're not producing oil anymore. No more. We're stopping.
Ugh. And it's also like, oil.
This story has a lot of panels that as I said earlier, I had to cover a lot while reading it because it's just so bad. But they're so good because had it been done by anybody else, I think the panels wouldn't have felt this disgusting. It had to be Junji Ito. It just had to.
This is like top 5 Junji Ito stories.
Yes, 100%.
So fucking good. So fucking good.
I want to buy the book so I can make people read it. I really am going to. Traumatize other people.
This is like, oh my god, it just reminds me of those. Okay, this is gonna be really gross, but those like pimple popping videos on YouTube?
Ugh.
I hate those videos, but some people actually love watching them, and I don't understand why. If you like that shit and watching people like squeeze puss out,
stop.
So disgusting.
Stop. I'm remembering the panel. I can't function.
I told my roommate that, because okay, listen, when I first read Greased Oil, I was like, oh, that's really disgusting, and literally no reaction at all. I just thought it was gross. I like the same way I feel about the rest of his stories. And then like 2-3 months later, I flip through it, and then all of a sudden I'm like gagging and I'm like disgusted by it. Ugh. And like I told my roommate this, and I was like, bro, I can't drink my water and I'm so thirsty, but I can't stop thinking about this fucking story. And they were like, what's wrong with you?
That's so gross.
I like ate a cookie because I was like, maybe like it'll take away the taste of the water and the fluids and like make me able to drink some water finally. But oh my god, it was just so bad. I couldn't drink water for a while.
Okay, let's move on.
You sound so...
I'm uncomfortable at this moment.
Uzumaki. Kurozucho, a small fog-bound town on the coast of Japan, is cursed. According to Suichi Saito, the withdrawn boyfriend of teenager Kirie Goshima, their town is haunted not by a person or being, but a pattern. Uzumaki, the spiral, the hypnotic secret shape of the world. For you Magnus Archives fans, this would be really great for something specific that I cannot explain because it's a spoiler, but you understand that it would be a really great recommendation for the Magnus Archives fans.
Jonathan Sims was inspired by this. He recommended it in one of his the Q&A sessions and said it was his inspo.
Okay, so more slime shit. Throughout Uzumaki, there's people turning into snails, and they're fucking slimy, which is gross, and fluids, and sticky, and gross, and it's disgusting. Ugh, disgusting. I hate snails, and I hate slugs. They're gross.
Yeah. The chapter is called The Snail, right? Okay, yeah. So that chapter, the evolution that the character goes through to becoming a snail is literally the most disgusting thing. Like, it didn't cause me as much of a reaction as Greased Oil, but it still made me feel uncomfortable. So uncomfortable.
Was it the transformation of their eyes?
Yeah.
That's even though so funny because you like eyeballs. You like eyes. You're a hypocrite.
Not snail eyes.
They're still eyeballs.
They're not. No, that's freaky shit.
So like how they transform specifically for their eyes, it like pops out of their sockets and then like transforms into snail eyes. And if you know what snail eyes look like, they kind of like, well, you know Gary from SpongeBob. Yeah. You know what snail eyes look like, but just like that, but like not cartoony and really gross.
But Gary doesn't traumatize you.
Yeah, Gary meows.
Yeah,
it's cute. And it's so funny though because it's like, okay, so in the story, the first person who transforms into a snail is like a high school student, and then after he becomes a snail, they're like, I guess we're just gonna keep him like as a school pet. And I was like, what?
They just had him like in a little garden cage, and it was so weird.
Yeah.
Like, hello, where are his parents?
No, his parents came and they were like, that's not our son, goodbye.
Oh yes, yes, said, you're right.
You. And it was before he completely transformed too. Like, they could totally recognize him, but they were like, that's not our son, goodbye. That's your problem now.
And they did. They took care of him. That's so weird.
So fucking weird.
Ugh, I love it. What is this town on?
Yeah, talk about denial. I don't like snails. I think they're really gross. I hate how they look.
They are not pretty. I used to not like them. But then I saw a TikTok the other day where somebody had like a terrarium and they just had snails. And it's kind of cute. I kind of want a snail terrarium now.
You want a snail?
Yeah. It was just like
Disgusting.
a bunch of plants and you just grow your snail. It's so cute.
Gross.
It's so cute. I'm going to send you the video.
Any other... No, I don't know.
I'm going to send you the video.
You can get any other pet that needs plants, Rhea. You do not need a snail to have that.
But it's so like, you don't have to do much.
You can
I
get,
could
you can
throw
get,
a
like,
little piece of
lizard.
carrot in there and they're going to be happy for like fucking weeks.
You are a terrible pet owner. I'm just gonna throw a carrot in there.
It's a snail. Oh. How hard could it be to take care of it?
I don't know. It's hard to take care of a fish. People kill them all the time.
Well, I didn't say fucking fish. I said a snail.
Well, fish are easy to have. I was
Okay.
making comparisons.
Okay.
I just don't like snails. And I don't like when it rains and they're everywhere. And I don't like the little slimy trail they leave behind.
Oh yeah,
I
the
don't
slimy
like it when
part
people
about them
step on
is
them 'cause it's
gross.
disgusting.
I get mad because I'm like, you couldn't look at the ground and not step on a fucking snail.
Ew,
Ruthless. And then it gets stuck on their
imagining
shoe.
it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like
Disgusting.
it. Stop talking.
Okay,
about
we're
it.
moving on. We're moving on.
I used to live in like a place that would have a lot of snails, and it
You're
would
the
rain
one
a lot
continuing the
back before,
conversation.
like-
You're the one.
I know, but
Stop.
I'm just saying that like I have so many memories of people stepping on snails, and I can hear it in my head, and I'm just like thinking of they look
Okay,
like
okay. The next section is also about snails. I'm very sorry to tell you this.
I'm so sorry. It's about snails and cannibalism.
Basically, in this story, there's a moment where food becomes scarce, and a lot of people are becoming snails now. So they start eating the snails.
Oh, disgusting.
A really good part when they're eating the snail, and this one person is like describing it about the sensation of eating the snail, because in order to eat them, they go inside the snail shell and like they become a spiral too, and it's just like
Disgusting.
oh my gosh. Okay,
Ugh,
wait.
ugh.
Does it bother you when
What?
their shell is coming out of their back?
Not that much. I think the
Okay.
eyes is more disturbing to me. Does it bother you?
A little.
It reminds me of, because like they're kind of hunching over because of the shell is being heavy, and I'm like, yes, that reminds me of my bad posture.
Do you have anything else to say about snails?
Please don't step on snails. That's really mean.
And every time you step on them, the noise reaches Elia and they die.
Yeah, and I just die. Ugh, gross. Ugh. Okay, moving on. I don't want to think about it. The next story, oh my god, is so fucking good. This was definitely the highlight of Uzumaki for
Yes.
me. So there's these two stories back to back in a hospital setting, and they keep finding dead bodies with mosquito bites all over their body. And pregnant women are arriving to the hospital sick from being attacked by mosquito swarms.
This is my favorite part of Uzumaki. Like, I hate it, but at the same time, I love it. There are panels in this chapter where the pregnant women and the babies have unnaturally bloated stomachs, and it's just very uncomfortable to me because I'm like, there's something wrong there, and I'm afraid to find out what's wrong. I am really afraid.
Ooh, another thing that I don't like is stitches, and that's also in
Ooh,
the story.
yeah,
I just
that's
don't
a
like,
lot.
you know when people in movies, like, they stitch themselves up, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? That's so gross.
That doesn't bother
I
me.
don't like that. It doesn't bother you?
No.
I can't, I just think about the pain that they are going through, and I'm like, I just can't do that.
This just reminded me of something. In 4th grade, we were learning how to sew in school. And I don't know what was wrong with these girls, but they would stitch little pieces of their skin with the needle, and they would be like, oh my gosh, look. And they would just pierce themselves with the, like, thing. And people would be like, oh my gosh. And then they would make little shapes on themselves with thread.
Gross.
Yeah, I didn't understand
Gross.
it.
I think that also happened sometime in my childhood, because I took sewing classes.
This also has, like, trypophobic elements because the mosquito bites
Yes,
are, like, little
definitely.
holes, basically.
I just think this was really, I don't have like a specific plot point or panel to talk about for this little hospital stories, but I just think the creativity behind it was really, it really stood out to me, and just like, it's very well-rounded, like, because Uzumaki's really good overall, but the stories in the hospital are just so well-rounded that they stood out to me the most.
The hospital stories. When you read it and you were messaging me, like, I knew the hospital stories were gonna get to you. And then you said, like, the hospital stories, and I was like, yes! I am. So do you have a favorite panel from Uzumaki?
No. I don't know. I mean, I think there are a lot of great panels, but they just didn't strike me the way that other panels have.
Yeah, I get that, because today I was flipping through the book to see if I could find a panel that I would see it and be like, yes, that's it. That's the panel that is going to be stuck in my head. But I really didn't find one that was awe-inspiring, except what in the first chapter of Uzumaki, the image of the dad being coiled together. And although I'm not disgusted by that, but it was my first introduction to Junji Ito body horror, and I was really excited. I was like, fuck yes, let's go.
Can you describe it to the audience?
Yeah. So it's a double splash page, so it's like really big. And in like a wooden recipient circle thing, the dad is literally a father figure, I guess. The dad is literally wound up so tightly, it kind of looks like a snail shell, and he's like, his body's stretched in such a fucking weird way, and his tongue is like stretching out of his mouth. Every part of his body is coiled into a circle, and his son and his wife are watching it in shock. And it's just like disgusting. Imagine finding somebody like that you know, and it's part of your family. It's just like, ugh! Gross. I would hate that, but it's so cool. But this was the panel that made me excited to read the rest of the story.
That's cute. I was also gonna ask you, like, when was the first time it really hit you how creative Junji Ito was? And was it that specific panel?
Yeah, because even though I saw the YouTube recommendation, they didn't describe it a lot. I wasn't knowing what to expect, and the summary of the story doesn't really tell you a lot. Like, I didn't even know Junji Ito was cosmic horror until I finished this story, and it kind of caught me off guard. But like, seeing this panel, I was like, holy shit, I am so excited to see what else he did, because if this is the first story, this is just like a taster of what we're gonna get. And I was so excited, and it did not disappoint. It really didn't.
I also felt that moment, but I will be talking about that a little later in the episode. Gyo. So Gyo is an anti-war story. I was like browsing some random Junji Ito interviews, and he was explaining how his parents were from a generation that experienced war and would tell him stories from the war. So he grew up with an understanding and awareness of war, and then was afraid of being drafted when he was a little older. And then as he continued to grow older, he began developing strong anti-war feelings. So Gyo is a very anti-war story, and I think he really communicated that throughout the whole book. So although I love Uzumaki, I think Gyo is better written because I feel like it has a better progression and flows together more, which I think Uzumaki lacks because it still feels very much like an anthology, because there's a starting and ending point for each story. So I think Gyo is a lot stronger than Uzumaki in certain elements.
In the sense that it's all like one unified story. Yeah, I agree. Because even though Uzumaki is one story about a town, it still is really like, there's lots of perspectives in that town, lots of things that are happening, and we're just gonna follow them all.
And it's a much slower progression too towards the ending. Yeah. It doesn't feel like there is a larger story. But Gyo is like deep sea creatures coming out and killing us. And is they stink. And I feel like that is a key point for me, because just seeing I forgot what the main girl's name, her reaction to the stink made me feel like afraid of ever smelling something that bad. And I was genuinely afraid, like, what does it smell like? I'm curious, but I don't want to smell it, like, but I want to at the same time. Yeah, I definitely don't like the smell of seafood. So imagining that times like 100, that's disgusting.
Well, I like seafood a lot. I
don't.
That's why I feel like I'm struggling to imagine like something really, really, really gross.
I don't know. Fish have those really weird eyes, you know?
And?
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Eyeball lover person.
Except for snails,
apparently. I'll find something else that you don't like. Just watch.
Okay. Do it. I'm fine.
I don't like seeing fish eyes. They're just weird. They stare into your soul. And they're kind of like, I don't know, they're this weird color and texture. Ugh, ugh.
Junji Ito has a gift and making me get mad at the heroines of the story.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there might be some stereotypical sexism, stereotypical portrayal of women in all of his books.
Especially in Gyo, because the girl, she spends half her time screaming, and I'm like, okay, yes, this is a very scary situation, but are we really only gonna get her screaming in every single fucking panel? Like, is that it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her very first way she's introduced is kind of like, you know, back in like, I don't know, what is it, the 1800s or whatever, when like men would be like, oh, this woman keeps talking about stuff, she's hysterical, she's mentally ill, blah 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 blah, let's put her in an asylum. That's kind of how I feel like the main character is being portrayed. Yeah. So Yo is also has a bunch of slimy shit in it, which I absolutely hate. Oh yeah, so disgusting. So 2/3
slime.
Oh, 2/3 into.
No, I just wanted to say slime.
2/3 into the story, they introduce this thing with bloated bodies and like, oh my god, they're just like. He draws it so that you can see that they're literally dripping with like slime or whatever the fuck, and it's so disgusting. And at some point like the bodies get stacked on top of each other with like fluid stuff gosh. Just like being ew. This like their fluids are just like mixing together, and I'm like, oh, this is so disgusting. I don't like the thought of like sweaty bodies touching each other. It's like, that's so disgusting. Please. Oh, no. Ew. Yeah. It's so funny, though, because, like, I love concerts, and, oh my god, being in the pit, you know.
Okay, no, that's different.
Yeah? You think it's different? I mean, it's still sweaty bodies touching each other. I don't feel that
gross sensation. I don't think it's gross. It is gross.
Yeah, definitely.
It is, but I don't feel that gross sensation when I'm there.
Probably because you're enjoying the music.
Because I'm just so... Yeah.
But I don't like concerts anymore because I'm getting old. My body can't handle it anymore.
Oh my gosh. Who am I going to go to My Chemical Romance concert?
That's seated.
Then? Oh, it's seated? Oh man. Well, at least that's good because I get tired easily.
Ha! What the fuck? That's literally what I just said.
You did? Oh, I wasn't hearing. Oh my god. I'm going with an old person.
Hypocrite.
There's one thing about Gyo that I was like, and that was a circus chapter. I don't remember the chapter's called. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, that was so
Why are we in a circus now? Yes, it didn't feel like it belonged at all. And I was like, this is kind of taking away from the story now.
Definitely. I literally have no idea why that was there. And like I did say that this was like a really well-rounded book, but I forgot about that fucking circus segment. But yeah, that definitely like knocks down a few points in my rating, you know.
And then like later the clowns appear again, and it's just like, what? They make an appearance at the end and they're like doing something against the hero, and it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it was just really so random and out of place. Like, I don't think it really fit the overall story of Gyo. Oh my god, there's this one part. Oh, so gross. But there's this one part. The main character like falls into this pit of like tiny fish, I think.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like lying there. He's like so fucking tired of life. He's just staring at the sky and he's like, man, fuck this. And like all the little bugs are like climbing over him. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I thought that's where it ended. I thought until I realized there's like a part 2 of Gyo. I was like, oh
really?
Like,
is that where it stops for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, that's weird. And then I saw there was like a button that said next chapter. I was like, oh, nice.
No, yeah, that'd be a really bad ending if you ended it there. What are your thoughts on the ending? I know this kind of goes a little spoilery. If you don't want to hear our thoughts on the ending, just, skip like 2-3 minutes, I guess. But I just want to know, what did you think of the ending?
Here's the thing about cosmic horror. Like, normally you just don't ever figure out what was going wrong. It ends like on a note that usually leaves the reader being like, what the fuck? And normally I'm okay with that, but for this one I was like, ugh. I don't know if I like this ending.
I do not like the ending at all. Oddly enough, it ends very hopeful, like in a cliched, hopeful way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. And it seems very out of character for his books, too.
It's probably hopeful because it has a dude as a main character.
Well, I mean, Uzumaki has... Uzumaki, technically, the main character is a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess
it could be sexism.
I'm just so mad. Why did it end in such a... why? That's all I have to say.
Why?
Just why, dude? Why? I don't like your ending at all. I don't like when stories are too afraid to, have that bad ending when the tension, the consequences are so high. Like, bro, if you have a zombie movie, people are gonna die. Like, we know that. And if authors are too afraid to kill off people, like, it's not realistic. So, with that being said, the way that Gyo ends, it kind of has that vibe. Don't really like it at all.
I guess since it's a anti-war story, it's trying to say, like, oh, there's hope, even if war does happen, we just have to fix it. But I'm like, war shouldn't have happened in the first place, fucker.
Okay, so funny.
Fuck
my
you. I'm still so mad.
Is apparently
no, it's my
Andrea's
favorite story. This was the story that I was gonna add initially to the conversation. Remember I told you, like, oh, I'm gonna add one more story. It was gonna be that. And then I was like, you know what? No, I'm not.
Well, it's my favorite story, so too bad.
Fuck you.
I read it before you, so, sucks
I
to
saw
be you.
TikTok about it before you.
This is the story that I watched on YouTube 8 years ago, so maybe fuck you.
Fuck. Shit.
If we're gonna judge by that, then I win.
I heard it from a non-problematic source.
Okay, but like...
Continue, I guess.
It's just so... Because, okay, listen. When I watched this video, I did not give a fuck about any of the horror stories he was reading. I was just here to listen to his voice, right? And so... Oh, right, I forgot to say what story we're talking about. It's called The Enigma of Amigara Fault. And it's included in the Shiver... No, it's not included. It's included in the Gyo collection. It's included in Gyo as a bonus story. And it's reoccurring in multiple collections because, they're just collections of stories. But anyway, so in the Enigma of Amigara Fault, they discover a mountain with human-shaped holes. They have no idea what caused it, and they have no idea how deep into the mountain it goes, and it's like all over the news, and it's like this huge phenomenon. People all over travel to visit this weird mountain place, and then as the story continues, they find out the reason why they traveled to the mountain was because they were all convinced they saw a hole shaped like them, and that it was made for them to enter. And so that is the premise of the Enigma of Amigara Fault. Okay, so anyway, yes, I encountered Amigara Fault on YouTube randomly so many years ago. I had no idea who wrote it, and it was just like a 13-minute video, completely forgettable, and yet the premise of it was just so creative and interesting that years later I still remembered it. And then like when people were talking about Junji Ito and were talking about stories they had read, they had described this Amigara Fault, and I was like, wait a second, that was Junji Ito? And I was like, whoa. It's just so amazing to me how I encountered the story randomly, and it just stuck with me just because of how good it was. And it's just so amazing to me how that happened. There's wow.
Now let me tell you my story about reading this. So when I started reading it, I had thought they were two women.
Oh my god.
Because there's at one point where the main dude character, the main guy, he tells the girl, like, oh, like, obviously you're here for the holes in the wall, because why else would women be up here? And I thought he was referring to himself, so, like, because I'm here for that too. So I was like, oh my god, lesbians. And then I got to the end and suddenly it was a dude and I was like, what?
Oh, but
When
Rhea,
did
can't
this
you tell
happen?
the way that Junji Ito draws men and women are very copy paste. They all look the same.
No, he's not copy paste. He had literally
No, but I think all the women look exactly the same.
Oh yeah,
like-
that's why I thought he was a woman, because he
does
had
not
the
look-
typical.
No, he doesn't.
Yes.
No.
Yes, he does.
Look at the eye shape.
Let me.
The eye shape does not.
Shh. Yes.
She has more almond-shaped eyes, and all of the women in his stories look exactly the same. It's so funny because it's like Tomie is supposed to be like the impossibly gorgeous woman, right? And I'm like, bro, this bitch looks like half of the women you draw.
Please look at this panel.
Which
look
one?
at the. I'll send it to you. Give me a second.
I think he looks like a lot of the men in the story.
Especially because. Give me 1 second to send you another thing.
Maybe it's
This
because I had
one-
already read the story before that I already knew that he was a man.
Oh. Especially because this one, in the record player story, I thought it was a dude, but it was a girl. So I had to assume, like, oh, it's the same thing here.
Mm. Oh, yeah, I also thought it was a girl.
So basically, I was disappointed, and I had to reread it, and I was like, oh, it is a guy. I was just misled by my brain.
Yeah, and I want to quote something that you sent me on Discord. You said, I would like to declare homophobia against my soul because I thought a character was a lesbian, but it was just a cis dude. And that's what you said in response to this story, and I just realized that right now.
It was. It was.
That's really funny.
It was. But it's a really good story.
It is so fucking good.
Ignoring what I felt. I would like to go find my hole
Yeah?
in the
Would
mountain.
you enter it? Would you?
No, I don't want to.
Okay.
But I would like to know that it exists.
Oh, well, I think that's what everyone thought, and then they
Yeah.
decided to enter it. So maybe, Rhea, that will happen to you.
Maybe. Oh.
Well, I will not be going with you, so have fun with that.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
I didn't invite you in the first place.
This is a private moment between Rhea and their hole. Okay. My bad.
It's gonna be a spiritual moment for me.
I really like the story because, like, you know, it's describing that desire or that, you know, like that feeling of being drawn to something even though it's extremely dangerous and you know you're gonna die.
Sublime. The sublime.
It's because I have these, like, okay, so I grew up by a creek and the road is really close to, like, the edge. If I were to, you know, go a little too far off the road, I would fall into the creek. And a lot of times when I'd be driving, because it's a really windy road, so a lot of times I would just be like, man, what if I just, like, swerved off the road and fell into the creek? Because, like, I don't know, like, in movies, you know, some, like, stunt people do some of the coolest fucking things and like, some of them have, you know, driven off of a cliff and survived, and I'm like, whoa, that's so fucking cool. What if I was able to do that? Obviously, they're talented, and it's their job, and there's a lot of safety precautions they do, so, like, me driving off a cliff, totally dangerous, but I just, like, have that thought, and I'm like, man, what if life was like a video game, and I could just respawn back on the road? But yeah, I just have those random thoughts about doing dangerous stuff, even though I know I would probably not survive it. Like, don't you ever get curious of, like, would you be able
constantly. But I just chalk those up as intrusive thoughts.
Like, I always get curious about, like, you know, like, when stunt people have to get out of a car that's in water, and I'm like, man, they do it so fast. I wonder if I could
I
be
always
that fast.
think that. Okay, but when in movies, when they're underwater, do you hold your breath to see if you would survive the same?
Oh my, no, I don't. But I can hold
do
my
that.
breath pretty long, though. Back when I knew how to swim, I would do that a lot.
Whenever they're underwater in films, I'm holding my breath, and I'm like, okay, let's see if I could survive with them.
Well, okay, but they're also, like, they're also under a lot of pressure physically.
I know,
and they're
but,
also
like,
moving, and we're just like sitting.
okay, why do you have to ruin this?
Sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know who does stunts? In like
Who? What character?
no, not a character, an actor. Tom
actor?
Cruise.
That's why. What character?
Tom Cruise.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, he does all his
That is a
fucking
character.
stunts. It is so fucking
Didn't he
amazing.
jump off a plane or was like on a plane?
Yes, dude. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, so I watched oh my god, I watched a video on this. Okay, so I don't remember all the details, so forgive me if I forget something really awesome. Okay, so basically he was like, yo, for the movie, can we like record me jumping off of a plane? And they're like, no, it's too dangerous. And like Tom Cruise, because he does a lot of his stunts, he knows a lot of stunt people, and also because he's a producer. So he and some of the cameramen and the stunt crew that he works with, they just like rented a plane themselves and just did it, and they filmed it, and then they used it for the fucking movie. And I was like, what the fuck? Oh my god, he's just so wild. He just does so many things. Oh my god.
Good for him.
But then in the movie itself, they add a lot of CGI to make it look like a storm, so it looks less cool and realistic. Like, it looks fake, which makes you really mad. I wish they didn't touch it so it could look, the way it was naturally shot. Stunts are cool. I love stunts, and I think stunt people are underappreciated.
Would you do it?
What?
Become a stunts person?
Absolutely not. I feel like you have to be really physically fit and have...
Well, you would, of course, train. You wouldn't just start now.
Yeah, no. Listen. You have to be really physically fit, and you also have to have, like... I don't know how to phrase it, but you have to be able to... like, estimate how your body should be moving or how far you should jump, stuff like that. I'm not very good at estimating that sort of thing. Hand-eye coordination? No, it's not hand-eye coordination. But something similar to that. I don't have very good... whatever that is called. So I don't think I'd be a very good stunt person.
Oh, interesting. Just because I assume I'm gonna be great at anything I try, I know I would be a good stunts person. After playing like an hour of Assassin's Creed, I'm like, yeah, I could do that.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Anywho, okay.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to say that The Enigma of Amigara Fault is one of Junji Ito's personal favorite stories.
Oh my god.
The other two that he mentioned are Hanging Blimp and Long Dream.
Hanging Blimp was good.
Yeah.
And I have a bag with a panel of The Long Dream.
Wow, what a stanny. Hanging Blimp was very interesting. Just like...
I was freaked out with that one.
It's just weird.
Not to get too much into it.
So
but,
fucking weird.
Yeah.
Again, how does he just come up with these things? I don't understand.
How the fuck did you think about this, sir?
I think he said he dreamt about it. Okay, so there are some stories that only one of us have read, and we're just gonna briefly talk about them. So, Rhea, you want to go first?
I've recently read like not his newest story, but one of his newest stories, and it was Remina. There's a planet approaching Earth at a very fast speed, and people are going hysterical about it. Like, they're getting really nervous, and they're just doing some weird shit because of it. It kind of gave me the Drifting Classroom vibes. You haven't read it.
I have.
You should read it, Elia.
I have.
You have read it?
That was the first book that
You never told me.
Yeah, that's the first book my roommate made me read.
Oh, not the Drifting Classroom. Yes, the Drifting Classroom.
Yeah.
I think you're... not Junji Ito. I'm talking about, what's his name? It's a different author.
Oh, well, he also has, like, a classroom one.
Yes, he does. But it's not the Drifting Classroom.
Okay,
This is by a different author. I don't remember his name. But it kind of gave me that, like, hysteria, people don't know what's going on vibes. But the only thing I had to say is that it felt very... the exact same arc as kind of like Uzumaki, I felt. And it was like, okay, there's kind of nothing new here. And
It's The Drifting Classroom by Kazuo Umezu.
yes. But yeah, it was interesting, but it did have that typical format, and it was just like, okay, with Uzumaki, it was really good. But this one, I didn't feel that good vibe.
Okay, so there's this story called The Human Chair in the Venus in the Blind Spot collection, and it's about a person who hides in a chair and, like, oh, it's so fucking weird, and I love it. Like, the idea of people hiding in objects or in walls and stuff like that, it's a thought that I have sometimes, and it scares me. Like, the idea of someone nearby watching me without me knowing. It's just, oh, it's so terrifying.
I hate that.
Yeah. I have it all the time. And, like, sometimes not as scary. I'm kind of just like, ha, what if someone was watching me? Fuck you. You know, it's the same approach that I have with ghosts that I encounter. But, like, just, like, okay, someone watching me through a window, creepy, but less creepy for me, I guess. But, like, someone who is, like, in a wall or, like, hiding in a fucking chair, oh my god, that is so terrifying to me. It's like one of those love seat chairs, I guess you call them. And they, like, cut out the cushion and, like, made space for someone to sit there.
Oh.
Yeah. So fucking gross. It's just so disturbing. It's so good, though.
I want to read it and never sit on anything.
Never sit. Well, you can sit on foldable chairs like me because I don't have space for a comfortable chair.
Oh. Good idea. No.
Yeah, it's not very comfortable. I've used out the cushion on this foldable chair. I took out a used pillow and I'm sitting on that right now. I have like a really solid PC and mic setup, and then I have a really shitty chair.
That's gonna be like the next thing you have to purchase.
I do have one. It's just that I didn't bring it with me because I don't have enough space in this little apartment. All right. So, overall thoughts on Junji Ito?
I really love his work. Even though not all his stories are my cup of tea, I really like his horror and I feel like people should read it.
I also think that for some reason I thought, oh, maybe he's kind of overrated and maybe his work isn't as interesting as people make it seem. But he definitely reaches my expectations. So I think it's really good.
He's popular, but like popular in a good way. Like there's a reason why he is popular. Like there are some popular books out there people say are good and you read it and you're like, what the fuck did I just read? But no, Junji Ito has reasons. People recommend him as like a master of horror, basically.
Yeah, like legitimate reasons.
It's really good.
In terms of recommending Junji Ito to people, I guess it would depend on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to read a few of his work, then Shiver, Uzumaki, and Gyo are my personal recommendations. But if you're trying to read all of his work, I would honestly say, first of all, pace yourself, because if you read all of his work at once, it's going to feel really repetitive and very dragging at times.
Like if I had the choice to like unread Ramina, I would, and I would have saved it for like maybe like a year from now. I just read it so closely to Uzumaki that I was just like, oh, I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah, I definitely feel, because, my roommate has all the books, so I felt like I should just read them all at once while I have them with me. But yeah, I definitely regret that, because now it's kind of like I didn't really appreciate each story, and I started feeling like a lot of them were really shit, and I was like, I don't think they're shit. I think it's just me zooming through all his books and not really taking the time to appreciate what he's written. So if you are trying to read all of his books, I would say read some of his collections first, his short story collections, and Shiver would be a really good one to start with. I would save Uzumaki and Gyo for last because I think his long stories are worth waiting for till the very end.
I would also say read Shiver first, only because it has like a Tomie story, and you could decide from there like if you really want to read all of his Tomie stories or not.
Oh yeah, definitely take your time if you're going to read Tomie, because you will just, I feel like I was just like flipping through it because I was like, yo, what the fuck? And Shiver's really great because it's short stories, because some people don't have a lot of time. You could just read one story, take a break, pick it up again later. So I think it's really appealing for people who just want to try Junji Ito.
Agreed.
Yeah. And we would also recommend not watching any of the anime or live actions.
Oh, 100% no. 100% no. I watched a few episodes in order to find, like, clips for the ads Elia makes. I wish I had not put myself through it. I wish I hadn't. It was so bad. It took away all the, the appeal of Junji Ito's stories through visual, like, manga means.
Yeah, it's very flat. Like, I can't describe it, but it's very flat, even though it has a lot more color and there's movement because it's an anime. It just feels very flat.
But the ad for Uzumaki, the film that's coming out, I like that they're doing the black and white and it still looks like the manga, and I'm kind of excited for it. I kind of am.
Yeah, I think it's better to have it more closely similar to the source material. There's also, I forgot to ask my roommate about this, but apparently there is a documentary on Junji Ito that is absolutely shamed by his fans because it was a person who did not do any research on Junji Ito and just like half-assed the documentary, and it's just really bad. I don't recall the name of it. I'm really sorry, I didn't ask, but just don't watch that documentary. Why did we talk for 2 hours?
I don't know.
I literally thought this episode was going to be like 45 minutes.
I thought it was going to be so short.
So, listener mail. This is from Dominic. They use they, he pronouns. Thank you for sending this one in. He says, I watched the first Jurassic Park movie yesterday because I couldn't stop thinking about this episode of Labyrinth of the Bazaar. The brain rot was real. We even had dino nuggets for dinner. And it's borderline homophobic that I've had to work a full shift today and won't be home until midnight to listen to it. Also, fun fact, we played a game that night that was literally just Jurassic Park as a board game. I love this now. Dino nuggets? That. Oh, that's so cute, dude.
I miss dino nuggets.
I do too. I used to eat dino nuggets all the time.
That was like in high school. A lot. I would eat that a lot.
Wow.
But then I stopped eating chicken and beef.
That was like kindergarten for me. Fuck you, I guess. No shame at all. I would love dino nuggets right now.
You shamed me for just even saying kindergarten.
Well, chicken nuggets are great. I mean, I don't know.
Thank you for listening to Labyrinth.
It's so yummy. I love the enthusiasm from Dominic. Thank you so
much, Dominic. That's so nice.
So
cute. It makes me happy that you liked the episode. Okay.
Oh yeah. Wait. Before we go. A quick shout out to my roommate Drew, who is an artist and is currently taking commissions. You can find them at Little Greens on Instagram. That's Little Greens with 2 S's at the end. They have great art skills, and I really want to commission them for a portrait of Superman one day. Yeah, they wanted me to plug them as a transaction for using their books for this episode. Hello?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm taking a breather.
Oh. I was gonna be like, the Starks suck.
Fuck you. Shut up.
Huh? Sorry, you
all
cut out.
All the Lannisters except for Tyrion suck.
I can't hear you.
Anywho,
you're cutting out.
I'm leaving that in the episode. Thank you for Thank you for listening to Labyrinth of the Bazaar.
Wait, if you're gonna keep that in there, wait. Y'all, I don't actually hate the Starks, okay?
Thank you for listening to Labyrinth of the Bazaar. You can listen to Labyrinth anywhere you listen to podcasts.
I don't hate the Starks.
You can purchase... Shh. You can purchase Junji Ito's stories wherever you buy your books/manga. Support a local bookstore if you can. You can send us listener mail at goldenlyres@gmail.com. It's golden, LYRES@gmail.com. Or on our Twitter at labyrinthpod. Follow us there for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Hopefully, Elia doesn't delete them next time.
Very funny.
Show your support for our podcast by rating us on Apple Podcasts and sharing us with your friends and on social media. Thank you for listening to Labyrinth of the Bazaar. Until next time, toodles.
Nope. Not happening. I'm not doing that again.
What am I doing again?
The T word.
Oh, Toodles?
Nope.
Oh, Toodles is from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Oh my god. Oh, no. Why are you bringing that back into my brain? Ugh, I can hear the theme song in my head. I hated how Mickey Mouse moved in that opening. It was just...
It's the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
No, I don't like how he moves. It's like, he's like bopping up and down while walking, and I'm like, bro, just walk.
M-I-C-K-E-Y. M-O-U-S-E. That's me. M-I-C-K-E-Y.
I hope we get flagged.
I love the way
I hope we get flagged,
like
and then I can blame you.
Fuck you.
And now
blame me. Go ahead. Bye. When are you stopping recording? Tell me. I have peer pressure.